When women give you attention, it doesn't cost them anything. So their attention is kind of worthless. But when you give attention to a woman, it actually drops your value. You giving attention costs you something, whether or not you realize this. When women give you attention, it costs them nothing. Like, it really doesn't. There are things that you can do with what you're working with to do the best you can. And so what is something here where men are neglecting themselves?
Yeah, and we can talk about this a little bit. I think a lot of guys, because we're men, and like we especially millennials, right? We grew up like, I don't know about you guys, but like my dad didn't teach me anything about like glowing up, looking good. To this day, he doesn't really know what to wear or what to do, and that's okay, right? In today's world, though, if you want to get that high level job, if you want to be in the top 1%, you have to act like it and you have to look like it. Even if you're going for a job interview, do you know what kind of suit to wear? Do you need to wear a suit? What kind of job is it? If you're going to a job interview at Google, you shouldn't wear a suit. They'll laugh at you. But what are you going to wear? You can't wear flip-flops. So you have to find exactly what works for that specific situation. And I think a lot of guys just forget that there's a lot of things you can do with what you have going on now, with the tools that God gave you to just enhance them and look and make them look better. So little things like, for sure, getting a tan, right? If you're going to be shirtless somewhere and you're super pasty white, it's like, all right, it looks like you've been playing GTA 5 for the past 6 years, so being outside in the sun, making sure that you're using lip balm so your lips aren't all cracked and chapped, like no girl's going to want to make out with you that way. Little things like that guys just forget. I love when I get comments from guys either in person or on YouTube, and they're like, man, I changed my hairstyle because of you, and I got a date. I'm excited. I'm going on this date next week, and she really liked my hair. Or I got a fragrance that you recommended, and I got a compliment on it the other day, and it was this beautiful girl. Little things like that do make a difference. They make a huge difference. But again, let me stress the point that you don't have to go all out, because a lot of guys get overwhelmed because it's not something that we grew up doing. But just take it slow. Just small improvements over time. It's like compound interest, right? They'll get you there, and then all of a sudden you're like, I'm 35. When I look at myself when I was 25, I look way better now than 10 years ago. 25, that's crazy, right? I wish I knew then what I know now. It would have been a completely experience for my life. Like, my dating opportunities would have been way better. I would have felt way more confident. I would have felt like I fit in more, right? Because sometimes I'm like, these guys look so good, and I don't really know how to dress like them. I don't fit in, especially when I moved to LA. I was like, oh my God, like these guys actually look really good. I'm screwed. Like, I don't have a shot. But I didn't know what to do about it. So I was just like, that's life, and nowadays I have the tools to combat that. And I wish I did back then too. So now, if you're growing up with YouTube, if you're growing up with social media and looks maxing, that wasn't a term back then, not even that long ago. So it's like, it's really cool to see guys now being able to elevate themselves and glow up because of social media and because of the information that's out there.
This is a completely different subject, and I wasn't going to ask you about this, but you brought up something that I think is really important. There's been a big controversy recently. My girlfriend is over 20 years younger than me. I didn't choose it that way. We just get along. She's from the South. I'm from the South. She's outrageously attractive, and it just worked out. There's a lot of people who find it offensive that I'm a 46-year-old man dating a 21-year-old girl, even though, we get along. We rescue animals together. We've been together for over a year. You're 35 now. I have some clients in their early 30s, and they're like, the time has passed me by. I'm too old for these ladies. I'm sure, Alex, I have no doubt whatsoever, your experience is much different with stuff like that, being older men dating younger women.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And also just to kind of frame this, I'm Brazilian. Like, when I go to Brazil, it's like, okay, these guys are way older dating girls that are way younger, and it's fine. It's just part of the culture, right? Yeah. So I think it's normal. And also, this has been happening. This isn't a new concept, right? Like, older guys have been dating younger girls forever. So it's not a new concept. And I think that's just an excuse. I think you're just hiding from the fact that you could actually improve yourself. And if you want to date a younger girl, you're totally able to do that once you elevate yourself.
And they're attracted to you when you're older. This is another part. A lot of guys are not grasping this.
This is something that, I didn't really realize until probably like a few years ago, not that long ago. It was in my 30s. So within the past 5 years, even on Instagram, on dating apps, when I did join dating apps, they were looking for older guys, right? They set their range. So you get a lot of younger girls who are looking for an older guy. Don't ask me exactly why. I think they're just looking for a guy who's more mature, who's got his shit together. But at the end of the day, that's just been how things work. And I think if that's what you're looking for, then you're gonna have to dress better. You're gonna have to look good, because you're gonna be competing with guys who are younger and probably in great shape and hungry.
Yeah, so the dating app data would show that women peak between the ages of 23 and 25, where they get their most right swipes, and men between the ages of 38 and 44. The reason why is because, like, for instance, I'm 46 and my body fat's around 10, 11%. If a woman sees that, and like I got some scars on my head, like whatever, if a woman sees that, from her ancestral brain is going to be thinking, I have a better chance of surviving with a man who's been through this much conflict and lived this long and still has good enough genetics to not be overweight in his 40s. This is probably better genetics for my children and more likely to be someone who can provision, provide, and protect me. That's the reason why I believe women are into that. There's also another study that shows that over 60% of men under the age of 30 are single, but only 33% of women under the age of 30 are single. So who are they dating? They're either all dating the same guy or they're dating older men. So that's one of the other things where the reason why I bring this up, Alex, is recently there's been this huge pushback. If you're dating a girl who's 10 years younger than you, then all of a sudden they're saying words like manipulation and grooming. And I'm like, I have no idea. My girlfriend is so much more advanced than I was when I was 21. She is ready to start different things in her life, like owning a home and starting a family, that I had no interest in when I was in 21. I wanted to play video games and go to bars and chase women. I was like, she's so much further along than I am maturity wise when I was her age. So
for sure. And also, and I do think that, yeah, women in general probably mature, a lot younger than men, right? It just takes us a while to get there. Cause like you said, we are playing video games, literally just playing video games, playing sports outside, and just chasing girls for one night stands. There isn't really a lot of like thought process behind the decisions of young men, at least not in my case. In my experience, I was just working a lot, but when it comes to my social life and my dating life, I was just like going with the wind, just going with the flow, just having fun.
Oh, one other study is from Dr. David Buss's book, The Evolution of Desire, where he does a 37 culture study of back in 1989. And what they looked for was the age difference between men and their wives, and they correlated that to income or socioeconomic status. As men climb the socioeconomic status ladder, the age difference between them and their wife increased. When women climb the socioeconomic ladder, they needed men who made even more money than them. And it was about 1.68 to 1. So if she made $100,000 a year, she needed a guy who made about $168,000 a year. And this is why you see Rihanna, who was worth several hundred million, dating a billionaire. Whereas you would think as a woman makes more money, she's going to want a man who's poor. I'm sure you've seen in Manhattan, it's quite the opposite.
It's quite the opposite. Oh no, it's really, especially in big cities, in Manhattan specifically, it's dating here it's tough, man. It's tough. There's a lot of options if you are at the top 1%, if you're taking great care of yourself, if you're making a high income. But if you're not, it's actually really difficult. And I feel for a lot of the guys who just can't get on any dates. And even if you do book a date, you're spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get dinner and drinks somewhere, and then to maybe have a connection with someone. So it's not an easy game for the guys here in the city who are just not at the top yet, and they'll end up losing.
Yeah, it's interesting. I really wasn't going to bring this up before, but it's interesting you bring that up, and that is the crisis in short-term dating. In long-term dating, what you tend to find is that women end up with partners about the same relevant status as they are. But what you find in short-term dating is a large group of women preferring a very small group of men. The numbers would bear out that the top 10% of right swipes, the top 10% of men on dating apps get 63% of the right swipes. The top 20% of men get 83% of the right swipes, which means 80% of men are competing for 17% of women. Men right swipe 55% of the time. Women right swipe 5% of the time on these dating apps. And 80% of the men on the apps are deemed to be unattractive. There's only 4.5% of men that are so attractive that women would actually make the first move. And so because of that, it's almost like because of social media and because women have access to so many men and they can left swipe. Think about what that would do to you mentally, Alex. If you could left swipe that, and what am I talking about? You probably do this. The left swipe thousands of men, and they start thinking, oh, I'm better than these men. I could date any of these men. They would all commit to me, which isn't true. And so you get into this situation where there's this evolutionary mismatch where you have these women competing for like this very small group of men. And then when they date these men or sleep with them, then they complain about them because these men have so many options.
Yeah, and social media does play a big role in that, right? So Instagram is basically a dating app at this point as well, right? You're getting DMs, you're following girls because they're hot and you just want to see what they're up to, and then you're hoping that someday they will notice that you liked their photo or commented on one of their photos. When in reality, there's 60,000 other likes that she's not going to notice that you liked her photo. If a extremely hot girl liked one of my photos right now, I wouldn't even notice either. It's just, how am I going to see it? If you're at that level, you don't have notifications on, you're not really checking all your likes. So, when I see a lot of these girls posting whatever bikini content, and there's hundreds of thousands of likes, I'm like, why are guys liking this right now? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, it
It
hurts me
doesn't
a
make
little
any
bit.
sense. Yeah.
I know it hurts me a little bit, but unless obviously like you like the person for who they are or whatever, I get it. But if you're just liking just because like you're hoping that she'll notice you, it pains me a little bit. But having said that, Instagram is a great tool for dating, for sure. Just not in that way. If you know how to use it properly, if you know how to build your personal brand, if you build a they will come situation where that you build something so cool and different, it's like your dating business card in a way, right? You have your whole profile set up properly, and when somebody looks at it, they're like, okay, this guy looks like he has a cool life, or he has his cool values, his family values, or he lives in New York. It seems like a cool place for me to be. That way, if you do that, then Instagram is an amazing dating app if you build it properly.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. That thing bothers me. If you guys want to know 100% correlation with who a woman is not sleeping with, it's the guy who leaves the heart eye comments on her photos.
Yeah.
100% of the time, she's not sleeping with that guy. I've had arguments with some of my clients before. It was like, yeah, but you like some of them, right? You encourage them. I'm like, never. If I want to encourage a girl, you know when I'm going to do it? When she comes to my apartment and sees me. Now, I'm not going to validate her on a photograph. Guys, I want you to think about it like this. Men, when women give you attention, because women like attention, when women give you attention, it doesn't cost them anything. So their attention is kind of worthless. But when you give attention to a woman, it actually drops your value. You giving attention costs you something, whether or not you realize this. When women give you attention, it costs them nothing. Like, it really doesn't. So you're giving attention because she's giving attention. But when women give you compliance, I mean, they show up for the date, they don't flake on you, physically attentive to you, and then eventually have sex with you, and those things, now she's complying. Woman having sex costs her something, just like you giving attention costs you something. And so if there's not an equal exchange, which there never is when you're liking a girl's photos who doesn't know you exist, there's never an equal exchange. And that's why it's just so ridiculous for you to do it. But I'm telling you right now, I don't like any girl's photos unless it is my girlfriend or a girl rescued an animal. If a girl rescued an animal, I like that photo. But there's no bikini photos I'm ever, and my female friends are like, why the fuck don't you like any of my photos? I'm like, I'll send you a message, or I'll tell you when I see you, but I'm not going to do it over IG. That shit is just crazy, bro. If you want to see dudes who like 100% don't get laid, just look at the comments on some of those photos.
Those are the guys. Yeah, for sure. And it makes sense, right? Because there's so many of them. What is she going to be like? Oh, let me check the profile of every single person who left a little heart eye. I'm like, no, she's not even going to notice. It's a difference between 105 comments or 106. Like, it doesn't really make any difference whether or not you leave that comment there. And I think if you're interested in a girl and you think you have a shot, or even if not, if you just want to shoot your shot. But like, that's not the way to do it. Give her a follow, send her a DM, however you want to do it, reply to her story. But at least do that instead of just like blending in with the hundred millions of other guys who are just posting, comments.